Natasha Clark is with me. I don't quite understand what happened there. Was she demanding that he make a statement to the House about what would be, when it finally happened, quite important military detail, but it hasn't happened yet? In the event of a ceasefire, we will deploy troops to Ukraine. Can you tell us exactly what that will mean and involve, even though none of it has actually happened? I genuinely didn't understand what she was going on about, and rather more worryingly, I'm not sure she did.
No, I think that was actually, I don't think it quite worked as a tactic for her to go on today. Obviously, there were questions, and right questions, to be asked.
Well, the military spending question was good. I'd have opened with that if that was the road that you were determined to go down.
There were some good questions. I don't feel like she maybe deployed them in the right way. Also, what
did she want, Natasha? Did she want him to provide
detail of how many troops, where would they be,
right.
what does that look like?
Is that how we normally operate as a country? We tell our potential enemies exactly what we're doing, when and how and why, like months, if not years, before it actually happens in a theoretical universe?
Totally. And it's obviously a totally hypothetical situation at the moment because, as you point out, we haven't got a peace deal yet in order to do so. But, on the other hand, it was something that was announced by the UK and the French government. They are wanting to say, we will put boots on the ground. It's fair enough for her to ask, what does that actually look like in practice? But it is exceedingly difficult for Keir Starmer to give any answers on something that's not happening. And what he did say, though, which was interesting, was that Parliament will get a vote if and when that does happen. That will be something which obviously previous prime ministers and leaders of parties have really struggled with, holding their parties together on the issue of whether we deploy troops or whether we do military strikes in other countries. That has been something which every Prime Minister has really struggled with making that case for. And I think
the benefit of a massive majority, perhaps, because you're not vulnerable to rebellion or quibble.
Well, you say that.
Well, you do say that. and equally, with a massive Labour majority, it's rarely the Conservatives that are opposed to military action. It's more likely to be the other way around.
Yes, but it will probably, if and when it happens, expose some splits within the Labour Party, which is completely, we're getting completely used to it now, aren't we? Those splits in the Labour Party, despite Keir Starmer having such a strong majority. It's clear there are lots of different wings in that Labour Party which are starting to emerge. So it's a bit of a risky strategy, but I think for Keir Starmer, he will probably think there is no option but to hold such a vote to get the mandate for that military action if indeed it happens.
And then again, on the issue of whether or not she actually understands what's going on, even the words that are coming out of her own mouth, for the Shadow Attorney General to be acting for a sanctioned Russian oligarch as the UK government, the UK state pursues money from him that they want to redirect towards the Ukrainian war effort, and sitting in the shadow cabinet. I mean, you could tell sometimes from Keir Starmer's tone when he goes full DPP, and it's an absolute no-brainer. This is completely indefensible. Bill Browder, very strong on this subject over the Christmas period, the least partisan man I know, because his mission in life is, of course, simply to achieve justice for his lawyer, Sergei Magnitsky, who was essentially killed by Putin's cronies, and he will break bread with anybody in pursuit of that. But for the Shadow Attorney General to sit in shadow cabinet and act for a sanctioned Russian oligarch, even if it is Roman Abramovich, who, of course, many Londoners still feel fondness for, is unbelievable.
Yeah,
and
totally.
She genuinely doesn't seem to understand that.
No, she swerved that one by hitting it right back to the Tories' favourite topic of talking about Lord Hermer, the current Shadow Attorney General, and talking about the cases that he defends. So it was actually
when
quite
he
hard.
Wasn't Attorney General.
True, absolutely true.
It was kind of crucial, that point.
And exactly. And the question that Keir Starmer asked was, is it, conceptual that you should be able to stand within the shadow cabinet at the same time as you are doing this?
Yeah.
And you're totally right. I think many people will say, absolutely not. Those are two interests that do not go together, just as the interests of, representing Shamima Begum and Jerry Adams potentially didn't go against the interests of Lord Hermer as well. But you were right, he wasn't in the government at that time. So a really difficult one for them. But what
Do you
was
think
clear,
she understood that? Do you think she understood that? I mean, the fact that she's talking about jobs that Hermer did before he was Attorney General suggests she's completely missed this rather important and enormous point about the difference between what you can do when you're a member of a government or a shadow cabinet and what you can do when you're not.
Or as Keir Starmer says, is she just irrelevant and no one's listening to her, and she's, totally irrelevant, no one's listening to, basically a pointless party. Can you have it both? Is Keir Starmer able to make that argument that the Tories are totally irrelevant, but also that you should be behaving like a government?
He could say, I've got no choice but to talk to her, but I'd rather... and then, as if any proof were needed, that wasn't the finest performance we've ever seen from Kemi Badenoch. If in case of emergency, break the
glass.
Jeremy Corbyn glass, and she did.
Yes, that was. So she was talking about. He sat and tried to make him Prime Minister. She loves rolling out that line, doesn't she? There were some good questions from Kemi Badenoch there, but I think her delivery was poor, and I didn't think that she did them in the right the right order. When she sort of said, when she was saying we will support you in what you want to do on Ukraine, that was the sort of collegiate party politics working together that we might have expected under previous governments, right? And if she'd said that at the top, I think Keir Starmer would have reacted in a much better tone. But instead, she went in for the attack from the very sort of word go, and I don't think it quite worked.
Nadia puts it well. So on international issues, when in opposition, Starmer always made Britain look united by backing the government. Does Badenoch think Keir doesn't recognise the importance of NATO?
Of course he does.
She's sniping about things that aren't hers to know in opposition. And if Nadia in Hastings can work that out, you have to wonder why the leader of His Majesty's opposition apparently struggles to do so.
Yeah. There are some questions. Should he have spoken to Trump by now about Venezuela? It is fair to say that in the last 4 days he's only managed to speak to an advisor of President Trump, as he just said. Not a great look. I don't know which world leaders President Trump has spoken to in comparison. Some of those questions about defence spending, as you said, were good. When will the UK spend 3% on defence? But I thought that the way Ed Davey said it was much better.
Yeah.
We need to increase our defence spending now, and should we not be working to speed that up in light of what America has done in Venezuela? I thought his way of arguing it was much, much better and much stronger.
I wonder whether the difference was that Ed Davey sounded like he really was concerned about the military spending and the military, whereas Kemi Badenoch sounded like she was concerned about scoring points off Keir Starmer, just in terms of tone and style. I don't know. And Ed Davey also probably being a little bit disingenuous, because he knows that the Prime Minister at this point can't really publicly accuse the President of the United States of having broken international law. But he is perfectly entitled to ask the question.